Welcome to the Coffee Talk Podcast. This is intended for informational purposes only and not to be used as a primary basis for investment decisions. Consult your financial professional before making investment decisions. Shannon Ross is a registered representative and MBA of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse Financial offers securities and advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisories Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Shannon is CEO and managing financial partner of Lighthouse Financial. Cambridge and Lighthouse Financial are not affiliated. And now, here's your host, Shannon Ross.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee Talk. We are in November now. As you notice, there's a couple changes this morning. For those who are watching us on YouTube, I have what you would call the third graders headphones. I think I have these same things for both my elementary kids. So I'm rocking it this morning because my beautiful co-host is remote today. So we're bringing in multiple feeds. But I did bring a picture, April, of you to put on the chair next to me just to irritate you and reward you for not being here. So
what picture might that be?
It's the picture from the night you came over to my house to watch the Oscars in your Sparkles shirt. And what is funny that I didn't even notice when I blew this picture up to put it in studio this morning is that Justin's doing dishes behind you. And everyone's like, better. Who's that guy in the back?
Oh, lovely.
And I wore my Tennessee orange for you today, and you're not even here to, appreciate it. So, very sad.
Oh, well, I can picture it in my mind.
I know.
Well, do you want to know what
Yes.
Do you want to know what I'm wearing?
Yeah. Is it decent to say on air?
Yeah. I am wearing... Because let me say this. Let me back up and say this.
Yes.
This is an exciting week. Actually, not the week I've been living. That's been kind of trying.
Sure.
But I'm living for the weekend. Because on Sunday, there's a very big event. And I am wearing, right now, my Yellowstone Dutton Ranch sweatshirt.
Yes.
We've been waiting for this for a long time.
For a long time. I think over a year.
It feels like an eternity.
It does.
So and of course Alabama plays on Saturday. So that's a given.
Well, we are huge Yellowstone fans, and I'm sure a lot of listeners out there are. And so their 2-hour, not just one, but 2-hour season premiere is on Sunday. So yes, I'm very excited. And I keep looking at your picture like you're really there, but you're not.
Well, I'm really sad that you can't see me in my sweatshirt.
I know. I'm sure you're very sad that you're not on camera today because you love it so much.
Well, and I actually, in true form, because we are recording, even though I'm not on video, I do have on a Carhartt beanie.
Oh, so you're still representing appropriately.
Absolutely.
To still be in the same vibe of the show.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. it. Well, today we are continuing for part 3 of our 7-year end strategies to grow your wealth. And so we're going to tick through a couple more of those strategies today. But before we get started, and I was running this morning and just felt convicted to kind of pause for a service announcement of sorts. And this is a little bit, we advocate a lot on this show for mental health and taking breaks and making sure that you give yourself permission to invest in yourself, to really continue on your personal journey of healing and freedom and all of those kind of things. And April and I, there's a heavy week this week in our community with just in our sweet little country neighborhood, just a very tragic situation that you normally just read in the news, but struck close to home and in our schools this week. And, just this trauma that happened just shows you, you don't necessarily know what your neighbors are going through. You don't know the stress people are under. You don't know the long effect of, being isolated through COVID and everything. So I wanted just my sister posted this awesome quote this morning that I wanted to read. And I just wanted to, before we go into today's topic, is just to again remind people, and we'll post some links on our website this week, where you can find a counselor if you're just feeling too heavy, that you feel like things have gotten to a point where you just don't know how to continue on, or you're ready for some help. We'll post some links of national access to counselors, because it really is important, because you don't want to get to that point where, something snaps. And that's what we had in our community this week. And it was probably the most tragic thing I've seen in our town ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read this quote. So, if someone is falling behind in life, you don't have to remind them. Believe me, they already know. If someone is unhealthy, they know. If someone is failing at work, they know. If someone is struggling in their relationships, with money, with self-image, they know. It's what consumes their thoughts each day. What you need to do for those who are struggling is not to reprimand, but to encourage. Tell them what's good about their lives. Show them the potential that you see. Love them where they are. When you can't see clearly for ourselves, we need others to speak greatness over us. People don't need you to tell them what's wrong with their lives. They already know. They need you to reassure them that they can still make it right. So I just thought that was a good way to start this show today, just because to remind everybody and just to use each of our opportunities to encourage those out there. So all of our listeners out there, this is a community of encouragement. And just life has gotten heavy, and everyone's kind of hanging on by a thread sometimes. And so to be speaking life over others instead of reprimanding or making judgments or what have you, that's what we see way too much of these days. And so I just wanted to at least take a pause, and allow people to let that set in. And a lot of our listeners, that's you. I'm talking to you. We spend a lot of time on this show of giving you tips and encouragements and ideas. It's all in an effort to empower you. It's all in an effort to make you feel and to stand by you in the best way that we can, that you have the ability, you have what you need inside of you to take that next step. Maybe you can't see 5 steps ahead. Maybe it's 1 step ahead. But, I just wanted to at least open the show that way, just because it's been a heavy week around here a little bit. So.
That's good.
Yeah. So, and everyone has their struggles, right? Eh? I mean, we're doing a flexible show today. Just, kiddos get sick and life kind of has to keep moving on. And so, all my moms out there, all moms are working moms, in my opinion. Like, I hate the term working moms, because there's no such thing. Like, if you're a mom, you're working. So for all my working moms out there, you can all understand just the level of flexibility every day needs to be able to kind of pivot and continue on. So that is what we are doing today. April, I don't think you had any sanity spends, April, this week, because you've been kind of homebound.
No, I'll be looking for some of those next week.
Amen.
Hopefully out of the house.
I know. Well, the holidays, Thanksgiving's just around the corner, and before Christmas. So it's funny how many listeners I've have reached out in the last week or so regarding our Christmas crisis show, and how much they've said here and there about how it's impacting them. And so I'm like, I know it comes to the forefront more and more every single day. So
it does. Well, and right now I've had some ample time to focus on my
on
online
your Christmas
shopping.
list. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and last night my son asked if we could start Christmas decorating.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, no, that was met with a hard pass.
Oh, come on. He's not feeling well. I vote that you should just start to put up the tinsel.
I know. Well, the fact that he asked to do it was encouraging.
Yes. But he's well enough to ask questions.
I think he's turning a corner. But, yeah, my husband would really, you know. Yeah.
Well, what also made me laugh this week is, as we mentioned on a previous show, the strategy that you and I do, April, to encourage our husbands with the Christmas list. And I've been encouraged just by my husband this week to send him much dialed down a list based on his conversation with you. So instead of actual items, I think I made him laugh with, well, maybe I'll just ask for pictures of items that I want to put around the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, picture of horses are better than no horses at all, so.
That's true. Well, and you have one of those favorite photographers, so maybe
I do. Well, and I'll have to, I haven't told you this yet, but I have my own campaign going on with Sweet David, your husband, and he hasn't even replied to me. So he's flat out just ignoring me, which, when anyone does that to me, especially someone like David, I'm about to unleash fury on him of sending him ads daily. So.
Well, he is in heavy work mode this week.
I'll give him a pass for maybe a couple more days, and then he will rue the day that he ignored my text message.
I would give him till Sunday.
Okay, that's fair.
When he's traveling home. Yeah. Maybe he'll get back to you then.
I'm still trying, and you'll appreciate, I'll share with you when you can see it, my angle, because I think you'll appreciate just the level of thought I've put into this. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
I so appreciate that. Well, just so you know, I've been angling with yours as well.
I know. They make me laugh. He let me read the text strand between the two of you, and it made me literally just laugh out loud.
Good. We all need to laugh out.
It was awesome. Right, I'm like, oh, I love April. She's just the best, best advocate on the planet. So as we go into today's content of the financial topics, we focused on the previous show talking a lot about IRAs and 401ks and all the different A's and K's that we were talking through. Today we are, and so if you want to know more about how to maximize your retirement accounts, how to do it in a tax efficient way, how to pay attention to taxes while you're doing things, listen to our last show, because that'll give you some really, really good tips to do that. Today we're going to focus on the next couple of strategies. And number one is only going to be to my investment community out there. So for listeners that already have investments, you want to make sure, and this is more if you have investments that are in a brokerage account or something probably outside of a 401k. It could be your IRA for sure. But if you recall, April, kind of when we started this show, I made you take a risk assessment to kind of figure out your tolerance of risk, how much you're willing to lose, what you're willing, your time horizon of how long you want your money in the market. And so when we all start investing, if you have a good advisor that's a fiduciary that has your best interest at heart, he or she should let you walk through a risk questionnaire of sorts to establish, what kind of risk can you stomach. And this next tip between now and the end of the year that I want all of our listeners to take a look at for any investments they have in the market is to make sure that they are updating and what's called rebalancing your portfolio to mirror your appetite for risk. So what happens as time goes on, the market goes up and down, certain categories of stocks go up and down. And so there's something called drift, and that's where in your retirement accounts or in your investment accounts, drift is when, you might have wanted to start out at, say, a 60 out of 100 for risk. So you had 60% stocks, 40% bonds, but as where the market has gone now, because of just all of the growth that's happened, all the appreciation, now what's in your portfolio is more of a 70-30 mix, where now you have 70% stocks, 30% bonds, which means you are in a higher risk category than maybe you realize or maybe that you want to be in. And so it's important to sit down with your financial planner, or, there's a lot of listeners out there that do their own trading, which is fine, but you want to make sure that if you have a certain appetite for risk, for me, I'm a little bit more aggressive. I'm like a 80-20 girl of 80% of my positions are typically in stocks, 20% in alternatives or bonds, just because I don't need the money right away. I have more of a long time horizon until I retire. But I still want to take a look at it because rebalancing just helps maintain risk at an acceptable level so that we can achieve, what our overall goals are. So there's, especially for people, listeners out there that are close to retirement, so like let's say 5 to 7 years out, they really want to make sure that they are not taking risk that could wipe out their a large segment of their retirement without even knowing it. So we have some clients who come in through our seminars and who establish Lighthouse as their representation in their investments. The first thing we look at is that happening to them? Are they are they driving a Ferrari when they're really getting ready to slow things down a bit? Are they taking unnecessary risks out there where they can't afford to lose 30%, 40% of their retirement income? And that's what we saw in the crash of 2008, is a lot of people were over leveraged in their investments and had so much of a higher stock ratio, and they lost 40%. And they were already retired, or they were close to being retired. And that's why they couldn't retire. They had to work longer. They had to make pivots really at an emergency pace. And so we really don't want to ever see that happen. So that tip of making sure that you are taking the time to look at your investments, look what your risk tolerance is, and making sure that those things match, and rebalancing your portfolio, making some adjustments if you need to do that. Clients at Lighthouse, we do this on their behalf. So we make sure that we know their risk assessment up front, and make sure twice a year we rebalance every client's portfolio on their behalf as their money manager, so that it stays in line to what their overall goal is. So that's a helpful tip for all of us, because unnecessary risk in any category of life, that's usually where we get taken out a little bit, right? So
That's right.
That's right. The next one that I wanted to address today, and then I want to talk a little bit about our next show in a moment, but we want to also we were talking about end of the year meeting. So last show we spent a lot of time about setting up an end of year meeting with your accountant, with your CPA, to talk taxes. We just spoke about meeting with your financial advisor, end of the year planning that way. I think the last end of the year meeting, so we'll loop these kind of together just so that you can get these on your calendar, is, not all of us have attorneys, but we all, for those of us out there who've accumulated some assets, there's a lot more of you all out there that might maybe have an estate plan, or maybe you need a will. Maybe you don't have a will. Maybe it needs to change. Once a year, I always like to encourage our clients to review and revise their estate plans to protect those that you love. So in your estate plan is a lot of where that comes into who your beneficiaries are, how much you want to leave for when you leave this earth. And sometimes that comes unexpectedly. And so I know a lot of listeners, for the parents out there, make sure you have a will that addresses this, because the last thing you want is to have the state to have to do this for you, because they don't do very well, and they don't do it according to your wishes, because they don't know what those are. And so when it hits probate, it's a process that, can be avoided, where, if you have the right documents in place. And to be honest, we have attorneys that we work with now that live in our area and are barred in our state. But before I had that, I've sent plenty of clients, and I myself, even like LegalZoom or something like that. That's an online presence of attorneys that, for pretty affordable, can create pretty simple but thorough legal documents like a will, to be able to to make those arrangements, so that you never know. You never know. In our community, we lost 4 people, within an hour this week that I don't think had any idea what was going on. And so, you just never know. So to have that kind of shored up as we encourage our audience to take the necessary steps, because again, the show is about equipping everybody who listens, being proactive for you so that you can be intentional in your response and your call to action. So, April, do you and David have a will?
Well, of course.
Well, I think I'm named in that will, aren't I?
Maybe. Actually, it's funny. I knew you were going to talk about this, but we recently hired a new attorney to go through our estate plan and our wills, because there are a few things that we didn't realize weren't buttoned up.
Sure.
Like we thought they were.
Yeah.
Not to the error of a different attorney. It was our fault. But this new attorney has shown us where we're vulnerable. Some things we need to change about our estate planning, our succession planning, what our wills actually need to read like versus how they currently state. So yeah, it's super important because the attorneys that you and I work with on a business standpoint.
That's right.
For our small business and medium-sized clients have always emphasized from the beneficiary side how important it is for these things to be well written out and very clear.
That's right.
So that in the event of their untimely passing,
it's hard to always think of the right words to say that. When you go room temperature,
expire.
when you expire, when you go meet the angels, there's several ways.
But they always emphasize to our clients when we do our group meeting settings how important it is.
That's right.
For them to have it well spelled out so that the state doesn't have to get involved and choose things for them that they wouldn't have chosen for themselves.
Absolutely. And as you accumulate more and more assets, our attorney friends always tell us, and they make me chuckle, they always tell me that no person should own anything. And so as you own assets, if you come to a place where you own your house and you own multiple rental properties or different things that you're left maybe in an inheritance, the more that a trust should be introduced. There's several different kinds of trusts. Trusts not only protect your assets from lawsuits or, different kind of obstacles that might come after you, but they also can help you from a tax perspective, from a exercising your wishes perspective. So, as your financial picture gets more complicated, this is where you start to need to have the right protection in terms of your legal documents and your, all of those things to be buttoned up, as you said, is just making sure, because, once you're not there speaking on your behalf, it's interesting how quickly you find people, making versions of the truth that you're trying to leave behind. And we've all seen it, even in some of our own families, of just if a will wasn't clear or there wasn't one. I mean, you see siblings, not speak to each other for years and years if it's not, ironclad and really executed well. And so that's the last thing we want, especially in a time of grief, when you've lost a loved one. And so, so can I have your dogs? Can you make the change that at least I get the dogs?
I thought there were some other items.
Well, I think there are other items, but, maybe you made changes, and I don't want to be presumptuous of what I think.
Well, I'm not even talking about that item. I'm talking about some other items that you've always said, when I die, or if David and I die, you and Justin get to have all of it.
Oh, it's so funny. And you always get upset that I talk about that. Like, don't ever talk about when I die.
Well, it's not like my fun topic.
I know. But, in the business we're in, unfortunately, we have to have this conversation with people a lot. And unfortunately, it's just one of those unpleasantries, but very real.
It is
real. The last thing I want my kids to have to figure out are, business decisions or financial decisions if they're going through a traumatic event, so the more that I can have buttoned up for them in a way that I think sets them up for success, I'm absolutely taking that opportunity.
For sure. Every time we're in a meeting with our clients, I'm always like, oh, I'm the one they don't like because I always bring up death.
I know. It's interesting. Some people get real uncomfortable really quickly.
It's coming.
It's coming for all of us. I know.
That's right.
The rate is 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Well, as we close out today's show, April, I wanted, since you can't be with us next week, I invited a special guest who's going to be in town. And I'm very, very excited because this guest has been a remote guest on the show before.
I know who
but we're going to have an in-person appearance, and that is none other than Stan the Man.
Stan the Man.
Stan the Man. Grandstand is coming to the studio.
One of my favorite people on the planet.
He is very, very fun. Yes. He's a child at heart.
The audience is going to love him.
I know. So we're going to finish out the 7 strategies on next week's show with my father being here, because a couple of them definitely pertain to his stage of life. And so we'll be talking with him. And what's funny is we make plans of him coming out and what we're going to do. I keep trying to tell him that I do have some appointments that I can't cancel because they're beauty related. And to educate him on what they are makes me laugh, because he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can't reschedule those.
No, you cannot.
No.
Once you lose your slot, I mean, it's just not good.
You're waiting several months or more.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he will get a very quick education on probably several things that he's never heard of or cares about. But yet, as a father to women, you just have to, there might be a lash fill involved. There might be some beauty spa related appointments involved. So,
hey, you got to get it done.
I think I'm going to try to get him to get Dysport with me is my goal.
Oh, my God.
Hey, men get it out there. Hello.
Oh, my gosh. Tons of men do. I would love to be involved in that conversation, or a fly on the wall. One of the two.
It'll be this what? They do what to your face?
They do what to your face? Oh, no.
So we'll keep you posted on that. But I hope everyone starts to feel better in your home, and that we can return after Thanksgiving back in person. We're going to spend a large part of December talking about giving and the importance, and highlighting some really cool charities in December, which is the season of giving for us and my firm. And so we thought it would be a fun way to wrap up the year for this show.
Which by the way, I'm cutting you off a little bit because
please do.
I can hear myself talking. I'm totally just going to say that out loud. So if everybody thinks that sounds funny, it's because I can hear myself in a slow feedback. But I already started all of some good research.
Oh, good.
On end of year giving.
I like it. Well,
I'm gonna be ready.
I'm glad you're you're gonna have more papers than me.
Oh,
is my goal.
I already have them printed out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I like it. Well, I was very sad that I didn't have the 3D version of you today, but we'll get you back in the studio soon. But where can listeners and viewers find us before we close out today?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Please continue to check us out on Instagram, join our community. We love our listeners. We love to engage with our listeners and our audience. That's right. So check us out on our Instagram, our website, which is still evolving and growing, but it's getting better and better, copytalkpodcast.com. And then, of course, our YouTube channel.
That's right.
Subscribe,
listen, and view. And
That's
subscribe
right.
and send it to your friends. That's how our community is growing. It's with all of you out there. I think it's just a lighthearted, fun way to get a little education, a few laughs, and to pass a half an hour quickly. So I usually do it when I'm running because I would like that time to go quickly, and it always does. So
you do it when you go running?
I do. I don't watch us, but I listen to us. So
well, and for those that watch this week's show, they're going to see my Sparkles shirt.
That's right.
Which is not what they're thinking. So they need to tune in to see, because you told me I was required to wear Sparkles to the Oscar party.
I did. So this is the picture I had on the chair. And Smart Butt April put a sign that she had taped to her shirt that says Sparkles.
Don't tell him. We want him to go watch.
Well, I know. Well, and I didn't include me in this picture, so I got all dolled up. I listened to my own directions.
Yeah, you did.
And I was very much dressed like a homecoming date was coming over. But no, everyone else was super casual.
You gave me very little time. You know I love to dress up.
I know.
We can do that.
I know. So, well, thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll be back next week, and we hope you all have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
This is intended for informational purposes only and not to be used as a primary basis for investment decisions. Consult your financial professional before making investment decisions. Shannon Ross is a registered representative and MBA of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse Financial offers securities and advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisories Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Shannon is CEO and managing financial partner of Lighthouse Financial. Cambridge and Lighthouse Financial are not affiliated.